The legend of Whispering Peak began long before the villagers built their homes in the shadow of its towering cliffs. The mountain, shrouded in perpetual mist, was a place of both reverence and fear, its slopes echoing with the voices of those long gone. Elena had always been drawn to the mountain, a pull she couldn't explain. As a child, she would stand at the edge of her village, staring at the foggy summit, her heart pounding with a strange mix of fear and longing. The villagers warned her against going too close, their faces pale with stories of those who had ventured into the mist and never returned. But Elena felt a connection to the mountain that she couldn't shake, a bond that grew stronger with each passing year. One cold autumn day, when the leaves had turned to fiery hues of red and gold, Elena made up her mind. She would climb Whispering Peak, uncover its secrets, and put an end to the endless whispers that haunted her dreams. With nothing but a small pack and a sturdy pair of boots, she set off at dawn, her breath fogging in the crisp air. As she approached the base of the mountain, the mist seemed to reach out to her, curling around her legs like a living thing. The climb was treacherous, the rocky path slick with dew and shadowed by twisted trees that seemed to groan with every step. Yet Elena pressed on, her determination fueled by the whispers that grew louder in her mind, voices calling her name, urging her forward. Hours passed, and the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows that danced along the mountainside. Elena paused to catch her breath, her muscles aching, but the pull of the mountain was relentless. As she ascended higher, the air grew colder, biting at her skin and chilling her to the bone. The mist thickened, swallowing the path ahead until Elena was completely enveloped, unable to see more than a few feet in front of her. But still she climbed, her fingers numb and her breath coming in ragged gasps. The whispers grew louder, more distinct, no longer just murmurs but words she could almost understand. Suddenly, the ground beneath her shifted, and Elena stumbled, catching herself on a jagged rock. She glanced down and saw a flicker of movement in the mist, a shadowy figure that disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. Fear gripped her, but she forced herself to stand, brushing off the dirt and pushing onward. She had come too far to turn back now, too close to uncovering the truth hidden within the mountain's heart. The path narrowed as she approached the summit, the mist parting to reveal a small, windswept plateau. In the center stood an ancient stone altar, weathered by time and covered in strange, indecipherable runes. Elena's heart pounded in her chest as she approached the altar, the whispers now a cacophony in her ears. She reached out to touch the cold, rough stone, and as her fingers made contact, the voices suddenly fell silent. A wave of dizziness washed over her, and Elena staggered back, her vision blurring. The mist swirled around her, faster and faster, until she was caught in a vortex of cold air and shadowy forms. In the midst of the chaos, a figure emerged from the mist, tall and gaunt, with hollow eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. The figure reached out a skeletal hand, and Elena felt a cold, clammy grip close around her wrist. Panic surged through her, but she was paralyzed, unable to move as the figure pulled her closer. Its mouth opened, and a voice like 1,000 whispers spoke directly into her mind. "You have come to the place of the forgotten," it said, its voice echoing in the empty space around them. "The mountain has called you, as it has called others before you." Elena's heart raced, but she forced herself to speak, her voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" The figure's hollow eyes bore into her, and for a moment, Elena thought she saw a flicker of something pain, perhaps, or sorrow. "We are the lost, the souls bound to this place for eternity. We seek release, but none who have come before have been strong enough. Strong enough for what? Elena asked, her voice barely a whisper. To bear the burden of our memories, the figure replied, its grip tightening. To carry our stories beyond this mountain, so that we may finally find peace. Elena's mind reeled, the weight of the figure's words pressing down on her. She understood now why the mountain had called to her, why she had been unable to resist its pull. The figure released her, and Elena stumbled back, gasping for breath. The mist began to recede, the shadowy forms fading into the distance, but the weight of their memories lingered in her mind. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Elena made her way down the mountain, her steps heavy with the burden she now carried. The whispers had fallen silent, but their presence lingered, a constant reminder of the soul she had vowed to free. When she reached the village, the people who had once warned her against the mountain now looked at her with a mixture of awe and fear. They could see the change in her, the haunted look in her eyes, the way she moved as if carrying an invisible weight. Elena began to write, her words pouring out in a fevered rush, recounting the stories of the lost souls trapped on Whispering Peak. Each tale was more harrowing than the last, filled with sorrow, regret, and a longing for peace. As she wrote, Elena felt the weight of the memories lifting, the burden slowly easing as the stories were given form and life on the pages before her. She worked day and night, driven by an urgency she couldn't explain, until at last the final word was written. With a sense of finality, Elena set down her pen and gazed out the window, the misty peak of the mountain visible in the distance. The air around her felt lighter, the whispers gone, replaced by a profound silence. She knew, deep in her heart, that the souls had found peace, their stories no longer bound to the mountain, but free to drift on the winds of time. Elena had fulfilled her promise, but she knew she would never be the same. The mountain had changed her, leaving its mark on her soul, a bond that could never be broken. But she had also changed the mountain, breaking the cycle of torment that had trapped so many before her. Elena closed her eyes, the image of the mist-covered peak imprinted in her mind. She had faced the darkness within the mountain and within herself, and she had emerged stronger, carrying the weight of those who could no longer carry it themselves. The Whispering Peak was no longer just a place of fear and mystery. It was a place of stories, of memories, and of peace. And as Elena took her final breath, she knew that her own story would one day be carried on the wind, a whisper among the mist, echoing across the mountain she had loved and feared. The mountain would always call to those who listened, but now its call was not one of despair, but of hope, a hope that, like Elena, they too could find the strength to carry the memories of the lost, and in doing so, find peace for themselves. The end.